Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Capricorn for June 2016. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, and check out my blog, see what's new there. And while you're there, sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community. So what's going on in June? We've got some big discussions about heavy hitters in the cosmos coming together at critical angles. But before then, I want to talk about something specific for Capricorn. So, early degree Capricorns, and again a reminder about who early degree Capricorns are. You are basically the December born Capricorns up until like January 1st, or from 0 to 9 degrees if you're watching for your rising sign. Middle degree placements are from around January 2nd through the 11th, or 10 degrees to 19 degrees for your rising sign. Late degree placements are around June 12th or January 12th through the end of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees for your rising sign if you're watching for that. The reason I take the time to differentiate between the early, middle, and late degrees is because the planets will move into the chart for the early degree placements first, leaving the late degree placements with usually a very different looking chart than the early degree placements have. So I like to differentiate that out for you and educate you a little bit about astrology. And I've had many people write to me and say that talking about these early, middle, and late degrees and the cuspy people placements, have enlightened them tremendously about their astrology. So I like to take the time to do that for that. So the early degree Capricorn placements. December born, 0 to 9 degrees, you're starting to have a lot of energy move into the 6th house. The rest of you, or actually some middle degree placements will see this happen in June as well. The rest of the middle degree placements and later degree placements, this is coming for you. So pay attention because it's going to be staggered, but it is coming. So the 6th house, oh, and by the way, all Capricorns are going to have some potential 6th house influence with these, one of the outer planet convergences that I'll talk about in a little bit. So really the 6th house is up for grabs for any Capricorn to have a manifestation. So what is the 6th house about? The 6th house has to do with your health, your wellness, your vitality, your well-being, your routine that you do that involves your health. That includes diet, supplements, exercise, meditation, yoga. It has to do with medical diagnostics. It has to do with alternative medicine, anything having to do with your health and routine involving your health, exercise, etc. The 6th house also has to do with animals and pets. And the 6th house has to do also with your daily experience. So some people call it the house of work, like what you do at work every day, or your office dynamics, or your office quality of experience. But for those people who are self-employed, work from home, or don't have a job, that 6th house has to do with whatever it is you do every day. It's like your daily experience. So when the sun and Venus, and for many of you the new moon, or at least some of you early degree placements and some of the middle degree placements will have the new moon there, there's this great opening up of energy. Venus brings harmony, the sun brings warmth and vibrance, the new moon brings opportunities. So anything like this along those fronts is increasing in potentiality for you. Venus usually just brings harmony and smooth things, and could even bring work romance for some people, because love in the romantic, or Venus in the rules romance, and that being in the work sector could bring that, or love in whatever your daily routine is, someone you pass by every day, someone in a store, someone at a yoga class, something like that. Sometimes you'll see a combination there where love will come in through something you do, whatever house it's going through. So the new moon brings these new opportunities, and the sun usually has a positive manifestation, but there is also this other side to the sun. It acts as a spotlight. So whatever house it moves through, it's like showing you what's there. Sometimes when you see what's there, you're like, like kind of like looking at your skin through a magnifying glass, and you're like, oh my gosh. It's a good thing that people don't see with the magnifying glass, because when you look at it magnified, it looks very, very different than without that. And that's what the sun is like when it's moving through each house. It shows you more of what's there. That sometimes brings up some things that have to be addressed, but at least you can see them clearly and get a plan together. And then you have the help of the new moon, at least for the early and some middle degree placements, and the help of Venus for all of you whenever it gets there for each of you. And then there's the big outer convergence that has to do with Jupiter, that has to do with health stuff. So more on health stuff later. The middle and late degree placements have this Sun and Venus and the new moon. So the rest of the middle degree placements that didn't start to have this sixth house energy cooking, you have a lot of focus still in the fifth house, middle and late degree placements. And even early degree placements also have fifth house stuff going because you will have Mercury there. So every Cap placement has something going on, if not a whole bunch of stuff going on in the fifth house. And the fifth house has to do with true love. It has to do with romance, creativity, children. So it basically is everything on the spectrum from true love, meeting someone, getting together, conceiving a child, childbearing, child rearing, anything having to do with children, yours or someone else's. If you don't have any of that as being relevant for you, but you're a creative person, a creative project could be birthed or conceived of and then birthed and then moved along this continuum. And I see many times the fifth house has nothing to do with children. It has to do with that spark of creativity, that, that fun, that passion that children embody. The fifth house is also the house of just fun, plain fun for no good reason, just fun and hobbies and games and things like that. So there's a strong focus there for Capricorn energy. And for people who have a lot of Capricorn energy, they're usually not all about fun because they're about work and being serious and being responsible. So whenever the planets move into this alignment, I think it's a really great counterbalance for this sign. So we've got that energy brewing there. Now, for the full moon, okay, so the new moon is on June 4th. And I'll get to the full moon in a second. The new moon on June 4th is at 14 degrees of Gemini. Early and some middle degree placements have it in the 6th. The rest of the middle and later degree placements have it in the 5th. And new moons bring new opportunities. They also bring you a chance to make new moon wishes. I highly recommend that you use your astrological power periods to make your wishes because they do work. And especially if you use them over time, you will be able to create the things that you want. I did a whole video just on this that you can refer to. You can search for Annie Botticelli, Making Wishes Come True is the title of it. And it talks about using astrological power periods and other manifesting principles to make your wishes come true. So you can check that out as it relates to the new moon wishes, but aligning your wishes with things involving Gemini, which have to do with communication and devices, transportation and vehicles, family, like relatives that are not your parents or kids, like siblings, step siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, etc. Okay. So the full moon happens on June 20th, and the full moon is a fullness, a completion, a fruition, an ending. Early and middle degree placements are going to have that, and maybe even some late degree placements will have this happen in the 12th house. The rest of the late degree placements will have it in the 11th house. The 12th house, as it relates to a full moon, has to do with something culminating either behind the scenes, something that you're working on, something that you don't know about because it's behind the scenes and it comes out, or something that has to do with your psychological state, your mind. Some people will experience a full moon in their 12th house as having a major spiritual insight or a major psychological insight. Sometimes people will experience it as having a major stressful breakdown of some sort where everything gets to be too much and they need to take a rest. So it's good to schedule, knowing that this energy is coming, it's good to schedule yourself some time off around the full moon. I tend to feel full moon energy a couple of days before the actual full moon. So those days around the full moon, if you schedule yourself off, then you don't have a lot you have to do. If anything comes up, you can attend to it. It doesn't mean that it's going to be negative. These things are emotional. The full moon has to do with a fullness of emotions. And sometimes a fullness of emotion is ecstasy or excitement, so it can happen that way too. You could be in meditation and reach a transcendent place, and that can be a magical, mystical experience for you that you'll remember for the rest of your life coming from this full moon, and it could be really positive. For the later degree placements, so like the 20 to 29 degree rising, or like around January 12th through the end of the sign, you may have some of this full moon energy in the 11th house, and that could have to do with social settings or friendships or acquaintances or social media or things involving a team or a group or a humanitarian effort or something involving an internet-based project or situation. So these are the things that are specific for Capricorn. And now I'll give you some details about these major convergences with heavy hitters, the outer planets, that are affecting everyone and that are pretty important. So, plus Mars is going direct, and I'll give you more information about that. I call the theme of the month of June, the heavy hitters converge, because outer planets, when they're locked together in a meaningful geometric combination, are like the heavy hitters. Whenever we have an aspect of an outer planet, meaning the ones that take longer to go around, like Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, or if you're looking at asteroids, Chiron, etc., these planets take a long time to get around. So when they make an aspect, especially to another outer planet that takes a long time to move around their orbits, their influences last for a longer period of time than the ones with the personal planets, unless of course there's a personal planet being retrograde, that's different. But as far as an actual aspect occurring within personal planets, you might feel those effects for a couple of days. But the story of outer planets getting together, that tells a story over a long period of time. It makes me think of when I was growing up in New York City. When I was a little kid, I was a baseball fanatic. I was quite a tomboy, and me and my little friends would obsess over baseball and watch it with my dad, and we would just get so excited when the guys who would be the ones that would hit the ball out of the park regularly would come up to bat. They called them the heavy hitters. And you didn't know if this was going to be a time they were going to hit a home run, but the odds were more likely that they were going to hit a home run than anybody else. Everyone was just, waiting with excited anticipation, especially if there are men on base, And that's the energy of June as it relates to the heavy hitters in the cosmos, because we have two convergences of heavy hitters. The first one is between Saturn in Sagittarius and Neptune in Pisces. Now, this aspect is a square. A square is known to be a challenging aspect. I don't want you to fear squares, however, because sometimes it's a square that we need, or a point of conflict that we need to crack open something up to another level, It's like it's a point of conflict that from it, you can completely improve your life and your life experience. All transits, especially the challenging ones, show weak spots. So this transit will be no exception. Saturn in Sagittarius and Neptune in Pisces in a square, this happened in the beginning part of this cycle. It was the last days of November 2015 through like December 4th of 2015. So the end of November, beginning of December of 2015 is when this happened first. It happens now for the second time, June 5th through June 18th, with the strongest point being on June 18th, but very strong for that whole time. And you'll feel it before those dates and after. It's a long-term story. And it's a theme that's following from the end of last year into this year, and it reaches this culmination like the end of August 30th through around September 21st of 2016. So over the course of the year, from the end of 2015 through almost the end of 2016, there's been this point of conflict. And so themes that came up at that point very likely will either come up again if they hadn't been resolved, or related themes will come up, or maybe different manifestations. But many, many people are going to have this issue come up in the form of security. And many people will have it in the form of internet security. When Neptune, the energy of Neptune and Pisces is very much behind the scenes. It's private stuff. So things that you want to be private with Saturn coming and making this square to Neptune, they might not be private anymore. So I always post these horoscopes at least a month and sometimes more early so that you can have a heads up for what's coming, so that you can take action. So one of the places that I recommend that you take action here is around this square, and it's around security. So I think it's a wonderful idea for you to change your passwords, to add whatever steps you can to beef up the security, to have a professional do a security check even, or research ways that, if you don't have the money to do that, research ways to beef up your internet security. Be careful of the things you post on Facebook and social media. Just have a new level of awareness of apps and how people are gathering information about you and your what you're doing on the internet, things like that. This could also be home security or work security or anything having to do with things that you want to be private that might not be completely secured. So you want to try to go through between the time you listen to this and strengthen as many of these weak links as possible. That's a really good use of the energy. There are also likely to be a lot of conflicts or things that come up regarding fear and faith. And so here are some questions to ask that can lead you down a good path with using this energy in the best way. One is and this is kind of along the lines of what I was just talking about with security, but where are you putting your trust? And is that well placed? And that can be having nothing to do with internet security. It could be in relationships. It could be with, who knows, whatever. Ask the question, where are you placing your trust? And maybe it's not the best place to place it. Where could you place more trust and you're not? There's also a very major spiritual component to this, because trusting in the benevolent source and clearing up any issues you have with your connection to the divine could be what's coming up here for many people. So maybe you're placing your trust in things that are changeable and movable in the third dimensional reality, and we all know that those things are change and or always changing, but the connection with the divine is something that isn't changing. So spiritual revolution could occur from this transit for many. Where are your boundaries? Are they secure? Should they be more secure in certain places? And should they be less secure in certain places? Sometimes we're putting up walls in places where we really want something to come in, So this square can bring up all of those things. If you want more love to come into your life, if you want more money to come into your life, figuring out where you're putting up blocks to receiving those things is going to be relevant for many people. Of course, I always love suggesting inner work, because sometimes this boundary setting thing is not in our conscious control. It's very much in our unconscious program. And the only way that you can really get at those unconscious programs is by working on the unconscious level. One of the books that I talk about all the time that works very well for helping you to set healthy boundaries in places where you need them and take some extra walls away in places where you're trying to bring more in is a book called The Presence Process by Michael Brown. It's masterful for that. So you can look to see where your boundaries need to be bolstered and where you need to be a little bit more lax in certain places, things like that. It's like the showdown between reality and illusion, and form and formlessness. So all the many ways that those conflicts can come up, this story has been brought up at the end of last year for special focus, and the story is getting stronger now, and it will reach its culmination at the end of August into September. So the next major convergence of heavy hitters we have, and this one I'm all smiles about, even though I'm going to make lemonade out of the challenging one and tell you how you can make the most of it when there's a really great aspect like a trine, like this second convergence, which is between Jupiter in Virgo and Pluto in Capricorn. I'm going to be really excited about that. So Jupiter in Virgo is very much about everything Virgo, expanding everything Virgo. And Virgo has to do with your health, your diet, your regimen, yoga, meditation, medical diagnostics. Many people have had major enigmatic health stories, and they're trying to, like a super detective, get to the bottom of what is happening with their health. And Pluto is the best ally in this because Pluto goes deep into research. Pluto rules research. And Pluto in Capricorn is very practical. So having this trine, which is strongest between June 23rd and June 30th. And again, there's a story with this. It started in mid-October 2015. It happened the second time mid-March 2016. And now it reaches its culmination with this aspect at the end of June. So many people who have been on a wild health journey, you might have some massively good news, or at least massively enlightening news that can then put you in the direction for better health. Many people are going to see movement forward in the arena of health or diet or anything like that. If you are a person who has MS, autoimmune, any other kind of autoimmune things, inflammatory based problems, colitis, anything involving inflammation, problems with your skin, anything that just seems like whatever you're doing to it, you're not hitting it at all. There's a couple of resources I'm going to recommend for your journey. One is a book called Medical Medium. Medical Medium is a Hay House book, and I'll put it in the link below this video. And it is very interesting. It's very different, and maybe some of you won't resonate with it, but many more people are going to have a lot of answers come here. But he's basically talking about how many of the things that are plagues for our time, from the health perspective, are actually based in virus. And I know that research that I've seen about cancer, they're finding more and more cancers are linked to viruses. So this isn't really very surprising, or metaphysical for that matter, even though the person who brings it is a medium, between worlds. The information is very much based in science from what I've been researching myself. So there could be a viral component to the things that you think are not virally based, and by treating it, you could all of a sudden heal from something that you're not supposed to heal from. Now, of course, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm offering a resource that could change your life. So check out Medical Medium, Hay House. And another idea is to get some genetic testing. If you've had a lot of problems, you could narrow down your specific issues by having some genetic testing. A basic genetic test that will give you a lot of information and is not as expensive as some of the other ones is called 23andMe. It's the number 23andMe. And this will let you know if you have certain parts of your liver function that don't work, which would create all these other problems. If you have certain liver pathway problems, etc., or other things that could be relevant to your health. There's someone else that I'm going to recommend his name, and I'll put all of these links underneath this video. And is a man, his name is Gino, and he is a friend of mine who is very gifted with understanding how science and physiology work, and he has helped many people heal from things that were considered terminal. So if you look up genospassion.com, or I think it's .com, or I'll put the link below here, maybe Gino can assist you with your particular situation. And he likes to work along with your doctor to see your blood tests and things like that. So many people are going to have good news or breakthroughs along those fronts, and maybe some of these resources will be part of that. What's very exciting about this transit is that it's reaching its culmination at this point. The previous transit we talked about, we're kind of still in the middle of that story, but this one is reaching this conclusion, and it's such a wonderful aspect. So other things that could come up here are things involving pets or animals, since Virgo rules those areas. Also involving your quality of work experience or daily experience. Virgo rules what you do every day, what your experience is like every day. So when you have Jupiter in Virgo, it's working on trying to make improvements in your day-to-day schedule. So if you look at your life and you say, oh God, I need to work less, Jupiter in Virgo can help you with that. If you're like, oh gosh, I don't have a job, I need to work more, Jupiter can help you with that. Whatever your subjective experience of improvement of your daily schedule is, Jupiter is working really hard to help you with that. And as of the time it went direct in May, those things started lighting up again. And now when it reaches this culmination of this, activation with Pluto in Capricorn at the end of June, you could see some major improvements in your work-life balance, whatever you've got going on in your daily schedule. So that's really exciting. Also, many people will experience this trine with Jupiter and Pluto as bringing them advancements on the fronts of work, career, and life purpose. Because Pluto being in Capricorn, Capricorn rules work, career, and life purpose. So Jupiter being in a great angle there can help to accentuate, unblock, free, synergize, bring great juju to your work and career and life purpose areas of life. So that's another way that you might see this trine story reach a culmination at the end of June. Third piece that is very relevant is that on June 29th, Mars is going direct. If you've been listening to my reports for a while, I've been talking about Mars in its pre-shadow retrograde, in its retrograde, and now on June 29th, Mars finally goes direct. It has a pretty long shadow period on the back end. It will be in the post-shadow period until August 21st. But with every day that marches on past June 29th, you're getting more and more clear of it. So if you've got to launch something, do something new, if you've been waiting, July is your month to do that, and the first little bit of August, because then we're going to get into Mercury shadow again, and it's not going to be the time to launch things. There will be some even better stars for launching in the last 3 weeks of October and all of November and the first couple of days of December. That period of time at the end of the year is actually the most open than any we've had this entire year of 2016, because the other period we had, like February, March, and then this one in July into the beginning of August, those all have some influence of shadow, of retrogrades of personal planets, even though there's some workable ground. So if you're not quite ready to launch, or something, you really want to have all the personal planets clear, maybe you'll want to lean towards that second window, but you'll just have to feel it out, because I don't know what your personal chart looks like, and sometimes personal chart aspects can supersede what the general stars are, So if you want some help with that, anything as far as perfect astrological timing or navigating through making the most of the transits, you can go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. You can check out my growing list of blogs there to assist you. You can check out my personal coaching. You can look for my Unleash Your Money Magnet program to help you unleash your money magnet. If you go to anniehelpsyou.com and then click on programs, you'll see Unleash Your Money Magnet. You'll see my Creating Successful Online Business course that will be enrolling in July. You'll see my Astrology Apprenticeship program, which will be enrolling in July. And you'll see my Shine program, which is a 28-day virtual coaching program, which helps you to make the most of the starry potentials by clearing out your inner blocks. And while you're there, definitely sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community and get all kinds of cool opportunities and information that come along with being in that group. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.